Shanche, Ayinji, Luanman, Adamek, Uye, Dachluedi, Ayahat, Ageyohatu Asauk, Ganach Chish Ta'an, Ganach Chish Kwanlindan. Greetings, everybody. My name is Kluane Adamek, and I'm from Kluane First Nation, from the Dachluedi Killer Whale Clan, and my Tlingit name is Age. I'm joining you here from the beautiful territories of Kwanlindan and Ta'an in Whitehorse, Yukon. I'm currently serving my second term, having been recently acclaimed as AFN Yukon's regional chief, and I'm honored to continue in this important pathway and this important work forward as we, First Nations across the country, continue to work collectively to address the impacts of environment, of course, climate change, and as we continue to show the rest of the country who we are as stewards of our own lands. I want to begin by acknowledging the work of the ACE Committee. Of course, the ACE Committee is the committee that has responsibility to advancing climate and environment priorities for First Nations across the country. I want to acknowledge the elders, knowledge keepers, chiefs, matriarchs, youth, and women who make up this important committee and who have worked so hard over the last decade to advance priorities as it relates to environment and climate. Specifically, as you remember, in 2020, we held the first ever national climate gathering right here in Whitehorse, Yukon. Approximately 400 people attended, and to be clear, to minimize those carbon footprints, we did plant a culturally relevant tree for each one of those participants. It was at that point in time that we shared the vision for the climate strategy. From a First Nation perspective, what does climate change mean, and how do we see moving forward from a rights-based approach being able to support communities on the ground? I want to acknowledge that that work has also been supported by a 2019 declaration for a climate state of emergency, led of course by Chief Tisha Tram and Chief Roberta Joseph from the Yukon region. I want to acknowledge the environment sector for its important work as it relates to additional files like biodiversity, and of note, there will be a resolution to that end in your information package. The water sector as well, of which we work closely together. And as we know, women, First Nations women, have specific responsibilities to water. It is so critical that we ensure that at every opportunity and at every discussion that is inclusive of water, that women and young women's voices be included in that important work. Of course, we know the sustainable development goals as it relates to water are of course being led for and by the water sector, which does provide us with an opportunity to continue to be advancing that work together. With respect to biodiversity, I want to acknowledge the Indigenous Protected and Conserved Areas, otherwise known as the IPCAs, and that 2030 goal is so critical. It is Indigenous peoples who are going to lead us and continue to lead us to get there, and it is so important that we collectively support each other to achieve these goals. Of course, we know that the UN Biodiversity Conference is coming up in 2022, and it is so critical that First Nations continue to play a very important role in those spaces and places where decisions are being made about our territories. With that being said, the environment sector continues to be an active member of national committees like the Joint Committee on Climate Action, and of course, advancing the work of the National Climate Strategy. I'm honored to continue to serve as the portfolio holder of this critical file. And as many of you know, the North is of course impacted 3 times higher than anywhere else around the world. It is so important that Northern First Nations people be at the forefront of advancing these solutions, and so very much appreciate all the support lended by First Nations across the country to continue to advance this work. I want to speak to you at a high level about some of the work we've been doing as it relates to self-government and modern treaties. Some of you may have attended the 2019 gathering that was held here in Whitehorse that brought together modern treaty nations from coast to coast to coast, talking about their lived experiences, moving beyond the Indian Act, and what does that look like on the ground, and of course being able to support those nations who are negotiating specific responsibilities in areas of jurisdiction, like education and health, for example. The Yukon holds 11 modern treaty agreements with 3 nations that have chartered a different path as it relates to self-determination. More than half of the modern treaties in this country are found in the Yukon. And so we continue to invite all those who are interested to work with us and the other modern treaty nations as it relates to moving beyond both the Indian Act and advancing self-determination on our terms. I look forward to providing more information in this coming calendar year of the momentum from the 2019 gathering and how we will continue to support modern treaty nations as nations and members of the AFN. Lastly, to the Youth Council, I want to acknowledge the 4-member executive, all who identify as she, her, young women from across Turtle Island, who of course are representing youth from across the country as part of the National Youth Council. Look forward to our continued work together, and of course want to acknowledge that this is the first time that we've seen 4 women and those who identify being the members of the executive of the National Youth Council. To the members of the AFN Management Committee, I want to acknowledge and commend all of you as we've continued to work together to ensure AFN is as transparent and as accountable as it can be. Thank you to the AFN staff who continue to support the work of the various portfolio holders, and of course ensuring that there are opportunities for First Nation businesses interested in working with AFN, and that we're able to continue to ameliorate the processes and policies to ensure, of course, First Nations, that the Assembly of First Nations continues to be your organization that is reflective of your needs and your values. With that being said, wishing you all a very safe and healthy holiday season. I know it's been really hard. We've been getting through this together. And so with that, Danke und Taj take good care of each other, and I look forward to the outcomes of this 2021 Special Chiefs Assembly.